name is Dylan Chung, and I'm a research assistant for STAR. Today I'm here with Dr. Micah Mazurek and Dr. Nevill, who are both very accomplished autism researchers and directors, and I will be interviewing them about their recent studies. So first off, Micah, do you want to start by telling us about your new PCORI-funded study?
Thank you so much, Dylan, for the introduction and for the chance to talk about this project. The study that I'm going to be sharing about is focused on comparing two different mental health interventions for autistic adults who have depression and anxiety. And we know that mental health and well-being is a really high priority for the autism community and especially for autistic adults. So this project is going to address that topic really specifically. To give you a little bit of background, my colleague Brenna Maddox and I have been working together really closely. She's at the University of North Carolina, and I'm here at UVA with our amazing group of STAR collaborators here. And we've been partnering really closely with a group of autistic adults and other stakeholders through a group called ASSET, who have worked with us really closely from the very beginning to design the study, to come up with research questions, and to actually help us implement the study. And we're going to be able to answer a question about which of two different treatments work best for autistic adults. And we'll be able to learn a little bit more about whether some treatments might be better for particular people on the spectrum. So in the study, as I mentioned, our autistic partners, family members, and clinicians will be working really closely with us as the research team, and they'll have shared decision-making roles, shared leadership roles, and advisory roles as well. And so the study is going to be able to compare two treatments. One of them is called cognitive behavioral therapy for depression and anxiety, and the other is called mindfulness-based therapy. And both of these treatments have been shown to be effective in the general population for both these challenges. And there's some evidence in autism, but just not a lot of research has been done in general on mental health and autism. So this will be the largest study of its kind, and we'll be able to do a back-to-back comparison of these two treatments to see which one works best. We'll be enrolling 300 autistic adults in Virginia and North Carolina, and they'll be eligible to receive treatment for free through the study. It'll be delivered by telehealth, so it can be really accessible for folks no matter where they live in these two states. And at the end of the day, we hope we'll be able to answer those important questions about which treatment is going to work best. And that will be helpful for autistic adults, their families, and their therapists when they're deciding what to try to help improve quality of life.
Thank you. That sounds amazing. I think it's great that you're making it accessible to adults everywhere. So that's amazing. Thank you. Rose, so will you tell us now about your project through iThrive?
Sure, thank you as well for including me on this interview and letting me share about this project. So this project is related a little bit to Micah's in that we're also looking at mindfulness as an intervention for autistic adults. But with this project, we're specifically focusing on autistic adults with co-occurring intellectual disability. The reason we're focusing on this subpopulation is that similar to the broader autistic adult population, there's very little research that's been done on mental health promotion. The majority of research in adults with autism and intellectual disability is really focused on challenging behavior. And so what we're trying to do is understand how mindfulness as a stress reduction approach can be used to promote a mental health and emotional well-being in autistic adults with ID. So to start off, because this is a pilot, we're doing a lot of background research to understand how to modify an existing mindfulness-based intervention. We're doing some focus groups and interviews with key stakeholders, specifically caregivers, primarily parents of autistic adults with intellectual disability, and their adult-aged family member if they're able and willing to participate in the interview. We're also interviewing autistic adults themselves and pulling in feedback from other sources such as the research literature and experts on this subpopulation of the autism community. And we're in the process now of aggregating all of those results to figure out themes on how we should modify a mindfulness-based intervention. We've identified a protocol that has demonstrated efficacy to help with challenging behavior reduction in this population. And what we'll be doing next is making some adjustments and then testing it out on a small group of autistic adults with ID in our local community. And from there, we're hoping to do some larger research projects. Again, this is a pilot, so we're hoping that this can be the base for additional investigation. What we're also trying to do with this project is target emotion regulation as a construct or the dependent variable of interest, because there's been a lot of evidence to show that emotion regulation underlies a broad range of psychopathology, and emotion regulation is also a construct that is going to be a bit easier for us to measure in adults, particularly adults who may have impaired communication skills. So we're really targeting emotion regulation primarily, and we'll be measuring it using a variety of different data points and data sources to really help understand how this intervention is working.
Thank you so much. Yeah, sounds like mindfulness is really important for just in general health. And so I'm excited to see how it will be used for the autism community. My next question is, since both projects have a focus on mindfulness, what do you think are the potential benefits of mindfulness therapies within the autism community?
Thank you. I think that's a great question. And I wanted to share just a little bit about how these therapies work. For our project, because we're comparing cognitive behavioral therapy to mindfulness, it might be important to just share a little bit about how those treatments work. CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, again, has a lot of support for being effective for some people with depression and anxiety. And the focus of that treatment is that the therapist helps the client really think about and identify their patterns of thinking and behaviors, and to identify any unhelpful patterns of either thoughts or behaviors that may be contributing to their symptoms, and then develop more helpful ways of thinking or behaving to be able to reduce anxiety and depression. So it requires somebody to be able to reflect on their thoughts and verbalize them. And for some people, that works really well. And we've heard from our autistic partners that some people really enjoy that more logical approach and thinking about thought patterns. But for other folks, it may not work as well, especially if they don't spend a lot of time thinking about their thoughts or have a harder time verbalizing them. And so mindfulness-based approaches have a much different kind of way of working. Instead of focusing and trying to change patterns of thought and behavior, mindfulness really helps people learn how to focus on the present moment and just to become aware of sensations and thoughts and observe them and let them pass, rather than trying to actively change them. So we expect that for some people, this approach may actually be much easier to implement and much more effective. So that's our hypothesis, and we'll be able to learn more about that in the study that we're doing that's funded by PCORI.
To add on to that, we hypothesize that mindfulness specifically will be a more helpful approach for adults who have co-occurring intellectual disability, because it doesn't require as much reliance on that higher order thinking patterns, like thinking about maladaptive thoughts and behaviors and adjusting them as you are taught to do in cognitive behavioral therapy. It's much more about your relationship with your body, your environment. And so there has been research that has really explored how to teach people who have, particularly people who have cognitive reasoning difficulties, such as intellectual disability, to really pay more attention to physical touch, sensation, pushing their feet into the ground, squeezing things, other physical activities that are easier to teach easier to model and imitate, but also beneficial because we know that they tend to have calming, relaxing effects on the individual. So that's some of the reasoning behind why mindfulness has even been shown to be helpful with people with intellectual disability.
Thank you both. I learned a lot hearing about the differences of cognitive-based therapy and mindfulness therapy, so thank you. I'm sure the viewers will also learn a lot as well. How do these projects tie into the mission of STAR?
I think they're really great examples of projects that are pretty closely tied to STAR's mission. STAR, in terms of our mission as an initiative, we hope to improve the lives of autistic people and their families through research and developing new models for intervention and training. And so I think these two projects are really good examples of that. We're going to be doing research that's meaningful, that will directly inform the development and implementation of interventions that are important to the autism community. So I think they're both really closely tied to STAR's mission.
Thank you. And my last question is, how do these projects help support the autism community?
Yeah, related to what Mike had just mentioned, a big mission of STAR is to help promote positive outcomes for the autism community. And with that, what we're trying to do is fill in gaps that currently exist around access to healthcare and healthcare supports. And a big part of health is mental health. So these projects both are going to help us better understand how to promote mental well-being, mental health for the autism community, which is really important because right now there's still a lot of gaps, there's still a lot of discovery that needs to be made in this area. So I think we're both pretty excited to be able to do this work to support the autism community.
Thank you. I'm excited to see how these projects go and how much impact they're able to make. Thank you so much both for your time and for meeting with me for this interview. And to those watching, I hope this gave you a glimpse of the exciting things ahead for STAR and the autism community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.